I'm Rebecca Ricks. I'm here at the Homeschool Connection, and this is part of our Facebook videos, The Brew. And The Brew is a mixture of people, events, or things that come together to form a more potent whole. And we're here to make your whole a whole lot better. And today's our Friday edition. An extra shot of espresso because on Fridays we all need a little extra shot. So, and of course, this is one of my favorite mugs. It says, Jesus fills my cup. So pretty much, Jesus and a little bit of coffee. But today, our verse is Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. And the verse is, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not into thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. I think about these verses, and I've heard these verses a million times. I think that this is, when I was little, was the T card, trust in the Lord with all thine heart. You know, when you're learning the verses when you're little, or in all thy ways acknowledge him. So I remember hearing these verses from a very young child, but sometimes when we hear them from a young age, we don't listen to them as much. So it says, trust in the Lord. And I guess that's the big part. I am not a big truster in anyone. So I have a hard time trusting people. Not just trusting people, but I think that well, I can do it better myself. It's easier sometimes just to do it yourself. You know, I don't want to trust in someone because I'm very independent. I can do it myself. I'm pretty sure as I was that little kid growing up where someone was like, let me help you tie your tennis shoes, and I can do it myself. I've got this. And you know what? As an adult, that's even worse because I want to be like, trust in the Lord. Well, I can do this. And so many times I try to do it on my own. So trusting someone. Sometimes I remember an illustration that someone gave, probably in children's church when I was growing up, of trusting. I can look at a chair and know that it'll hold me up, but I'm not trusting that chair until I'm sitting down in it. You know, we can look at people and say, oh, I trust them, but until you actually trust them and actually sit in the chair, it's not always going to happen. And so trust in the Lord. You know, trust is hard, and putting our trust in the Lord, he's the one who has everything and knows everything. Putting our trust in him is sometimes one of the hardest things because we think we can do it on our own. I feel like I'm independent. I got this. I can do this. And I don't need anybody to help me. And it doesn't say just trust in the Lord. It says trust in the Lord with all thine heart. All of your heart. You know, I'm that kind of person who the chair, I'm going to sit in it a little bit, but I'm not going to give that chair everything. Okay, I'm not going to sit all the way down because I don't fully trust it. You know, are we like that with God? Well, I'll give you this little part or this little part. It says with all thine heart, with no reserve, giving him everything. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not unto thine own understanding. This is really hard for me because our own understanding. I know this sounds horrible and prideful, but a lot of times I lean on my talents for things. You know, there's things that I know how to do. So this is my 17th year teaching, and I feel pretty confident that I can go into a classroom and teach a classroom. I can go in there and I can do it, and I don't even have to think. But you know what? Then I have that one student who needs my help, and I'm like, what do I do with this one student? How do I help this student? And if I haven't been trusting God or praying about that student or praying about whatever the situation is, I'm leaning on my own understanding. And so many times, especially in teaching and working with children, my own understanding is minimal. I know there's lots of times I've helped a child and they've done something, especially in math, and they're like, wow, that's awesome. And I thought, wow, that is awesome. Where did that come from? I've never taught it that way before. God sometimes just gives you this little extra spice, not leaning on our own understanding. So it's so easy for us to lean on our talents and not trust God. And I've finally gotten to the place in my life where I realize I can't do it all on my own. As much as I want to say I can tie my own shoes, no, I can do it by myself. Sometimes we need to trust in the Lord, not just trust in him with all mine heart and not lean on my own understanding, my own talents. And it says, in all thy ways acknowledge him. You know, trusting that he's the one, acknowledging that he's the one who gave me any talents that I have, any abilities that I have, anything that I have, acknowledging that that it's him that gave it to me, and he'll direct our paths. You know, knowing that God might have given us those talents. So yesterday I went and visited a school locally in our area to give them some of our tutoring flyers. And I was talking to the lady, and I was amazed that I have been to, a handful, probably a dozen schools in the last 2 weeks, passing out summer school information, different programs that we do here. She was one of the only, and of the schools I've been to in our town, I've only had 2 principals or administrators tell me that this is what God had called them to do, that God had really called them to do this job. And this lady was telling me how she had come full circle, how she had been a dental hygienist and God had led her through all these things, and he had directed her path to start this school. And I thought that was such a blessing to me. You know, I look back, and if we do all these things, if we trust in the Lord with all our heart, and we don't depend on our own understanding, we don't lean on our own natural abilities, and we acknowledge him, not just in all our ways acknowledge him and trust him in everything, then if we do those 3 things, then he'll direct our path. He'll lead us right where we want to go. You know, my path is different than the path I ever thought it would be. And I can't say I've always trusted the Lord with all my heart, or that I haven't leaned on my own abilities, or I haven't acknowledged him in everything. But God still loves us and trusts us, and he does direct our paths in ways we don't know. See, we don't know where our path is going. And sometimes I look at these children and we don't know what paths our children are going to go on, or the children I'm teaching what path they're going to take. But that's okay. I don't have to know, because God knows. All I have to know is that I just trust in the Lord. He'll take care of it with all my heart and not depend on my own understanding. You know, sometimes things happen we don't understand. We don't see it. We don't understand it. We don't know what the future holds. But God most certainly does. And he has that path all laid out for us. This, for me, if I look now, and it's almost St. Patrick's time, so we always do St. Patrick's, so I can look back to St. Patrick's last year to this year. This has been a crazy year. My path has been a little crooked. It hasn't been straight and narrow. If I look down the path, and I'm someone who wants to stand at the end of the path and look all the way down, and I can see where this path goes at the end. But my path has had some twists and turns, some things that weren't my plan, weren't what I expected, things that I didn't expect. But you know what? I can look at that and know that God is directing my path. I have to trust him. And as hard as that is, he's there. He'll take care of it. And acknowledging him. So hopefully that'll help you. A little extra shot of espresso to help you finish out your weekend. Trust in the Lord with everything. Don't depend on your own talents, because sometimes our talents will fail us. And acknowledge him. Know him. Just acknowledge that he's the one who gave us everything. And he'll lead our paths. He's got our path taken. So thank you guys so much for listening. And remember, you're not alone. We're here to help. And hopefully we'll see you next time on Monday with The Brew. Have a great weekend.